question here is just tell me about Lane 4 and the situation there.
From the beginning, Lane 4 is kind of is an independent development firm. They've performed projects like this in other areas. You know, most notably Manhattan, Kansas. They did Aggieville for Kansas State University. Pretty successful project, if I may say so. They've also done successful projects in Kansas City. Because of this, you know, the city of Ames and Iowa State University, for the first time, are really on the same page with wanting to redevelop Campstown. You know, in the past, each has identified it as a goal. This is the first time kind of they're both willing to work on it at the same time. They held out a bidding process. Lane 4 rose to the forefront as the premier developer for this kind of situation. Our project is very, very similar, the one that they're looking at undertaking in the Ames Campstown area. Very similar to that Aggieville feel, you know, small town, right across the street from a large campus. We figured, or I shouldn't say we, Iowa State figured that it was probably a good bet, and the city of Ames definitely moved forward with that as they entered with the into the agreement with them last spring. I believe it was in May that they first came to their initial agreement that they wouldn't seek out other developers, and gave Lane 4 some time to go. So Lane 4 has been working for the past 9 months now, almost, working as putting together a plan for the Campstown area. They've held many, many meetings across campus. The first time they were in town in force was back in June. They held a couple of meetings with student groups, 2 to 3 meetings with student groups, and then lots of focus groups within the university. I know I can only assume that they held the same meetings within the city to kind of just gauge the general opinion. They held a couple open forums as well where people came and talked. They moved on, came back. We held some discussions about our theater project, which I'm sure you're familiar with, the Cyclone Cinema project. We held some discussions about that throughout July, August, September. They came back with a formal proposal, I should say a formal proposal, an informal schematic of what they'd like to see in the Campstown area come end of September, beginning of October. I don't remember the exact timeline. They came to a GSP meeting and kind of shared their thoughts with students, gathered more student feedback. They held an open forum for students, gathered more student feedback at the M-Shop open forum. So throughout the whole process, they've done a really good job of engaging students, and some really consistent messages have come from the student body as they've gone forward and talked to Lane 4 about this. So, you know, that's kind of in a nutshell where everything's going, or where everything's been. I'm sure you have more focused questions. So,
well, do you think that the revitalization of Campstown is a necessity?
Oh, I think it's absolutely beneficial. I think, first of all, students have everything to gain from this process. You know, right now in Campstown, we're lacking quite a few things. You know, we have a lot of things that we really enjoy. You know, the bars being kind of the primary source of entertainment for a lot of students in Campstown. We enjoy a lot of small specialty restaurants. We have a lot, you know, as we held the focus groups, as Lane 4 held those focus groups throughout the summer and the fall, one thing that always rose to the front, no matter who was talking, was stomping grounds. Fantastic environment there, something that they really want to keep, something that they want to, just the environment that they want to facilitate in Campstown. So, start off, you know, we have a lot of things going for us in Campstown. Location being another thing that's just really, really beneficial. That being said, I think we have a lot of opportunity for further use in Campstown area. Right now, the primary thing I see lacking is under 21 entertainment. That is absolutely huge. You know, as a student who just recently turned 21, actually at the end of last summer, I had no draw to Campstown outside of, you know, going there Sunday night for food outside the residence halls, and that was the only time I would ever spend in Campstown. And when you have such a huge population right across the street that's under 21 primarily, you know, in Friley Residence Hall and the other residence halls in the area, there's some really, really good potential for that area to serve as kind of just a great place for students on the weekends for under 21 entertainment. One other thing I'd add is you look at Campstown right now, and it's not the most visually appealing area that you may have. nor does it, for better or worse, I know there are a lot of audiences that enjoyed certain services down there, but right now, the Iowa State University could really stand a lot to gain from some redevelopment in this for the sake of recruiting. Right now isn't a lot of parents will drive by Campus Town and not really give it a second look as they're coming through to the Enrollment Services Center to start the campus tour. But if we can make this a gateway to campus, we can really help recruit some students. Having things like that in the off-campus environment, yet so close to campus, that's something that's absolutely huge for future students to come.
Okay. So we've kind of looked at the students. Now, I've heard the word eminent domain kicked around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly, is that on the table right now?
You're asking the wrong person as far as eminent domain goes. I would assume it's in play if need be. To give a personal example, in my hometown, we had a lot going on with eminent domain in our portion of town as some industry in the private sector needed to expand. It's not at all relevant to what's going on here because that was a factory wanting to take over some abandoned buildings, but eminent domain could definitely come into play here if the city feels it's wise and for the benefit of the greater community. I am not at all the expert regarding eminent domain, so I won't pretend to be.
So what benefit to Iowa State University is Lane 4, the property group?
There's, as far as Lane 4 specifically, or the benefits of the project?
Both.
Okay. Lane 4 specifically, is not providing any sort of benefit for Iowa State University. And, some of the agreements and talks that are going on would involve Iowa State being a tenant in some buildings. Lane 4 is proposing office spaces. That's one benefit that Iowa State could gain from that. Specifically, they could lease out some of the new buildings. They have a great need for office space. They have a lot of off-campus at the present. I know if you're familiar with the area down on Airport Road, that's they have a lot of office spaces clustered down there. That's kind of one thing that they might have talked about moving. Otherwise, just moving, bringing general services closer to the student population. Things that are housed further away from kind of the hub of campus life. Otherwise, the Iowa State, I mentioned recruiting. Iowa State stands a lot to gain from that. There's no financial incentives for either Lane 4 or Iowa State throughout the whole deal. It's a business venture for Lane 4, so they purchase the property and would lease it to how they see fit. But Iowa State is by no means paying Lane 4 to come do this. Lane 4 won't be paying Iowa State anything or offering any special services to Iowa State outside of what Iowa State could offer as a tenant or something of that nature.
Okay. So what was the criteria then in choosing Lane 4 as the developer?
Again, I'm not familiar with the city's decision. The city put out the RFP for the different development groups, and they made their decision. That I'm imagining Steve Shanker would be the best person to go to regarding that, the city manager. So. Though I guess I would add that I could venture a guess that their success with other similar projects is one big part of it. I mentioned Manhattan and Aggieville, very, very similar. So that's my unprofessional opinion, if you will.
Okay. So beyond what was already talked about, does the university have a vested interest in the revitalization project?
I think it's very, very important for the university. President Joffrey has said many, many times that this is one of his highest priorities to make happen. I can't speculate any further on what specific interests the university has, other than the apparent benefits for students. Believe it or not, the university has students at its heart for a lot of its goals. It recognizes what students can gain from this venture. Students, as I mentioned, stand quite a bit to gain. I don't see anything that students have to lose through redevelopment. And then any services that could be expanded for the university. One thing that I'd mention is the university isn't going to do anything that will hurt them. Kind of one project that was put forth by Lane 4 was a proposed shared use theater and academic building concept that the university decided wouldn't be beneficial. So, the university isn't just taking everything Lane 4 puts forth and, running with it. Universities holding up its own end in the negotiations as well and making sure it's getting a good deal out of everything as well.
Okay. I understand that the GSB conducted a survey.
Yes.
I guess at the end of the fall semester. Is that true or no?
Yes, it is. GSB puts out a survey for our own uses. Most of the questions are focused on how can GSB better reach students. I'm guessing you're interested in the questions about the campus town?
I'm just interested in that survey itself. I haven't really seen it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I might have deleted it from my inbox or
yeah.
whatever. But.
Yeah, there were about 25 questions on the survey, most, again, related to GSB financial process, other GSB projects that we're working on. Sustainability was one. How can we improve sustainability? We did add 2 questions regarding campus town onto the survey, and I believe the first was, what do you currently enjoy about the campus town area? And second is, what added services would you like to see in the campus town area? And again, I haven't done more than skim through the results very, very briefly regarding those questions. But
what was the first question again?
What do you currently enjoy about the campus town area?
So the survey itself didn't actually ask what students thought on the actual Lane 4 revitalization project.
I don't believe so. I didn't put out the survey, but I kind of skimmed over the results. Our PR committee is more familiar with the content of the survey. But
okay. I'm asking because a lot of the students that we spoke with were really against Lane 4. They felt it was a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea?
Well, and
how do you account for that?
To be fully honest, that's the exact opposite of what I've heard from most of the students that I've talked to. Students that, once they're informed of kind of what's going on, the benefits for students that this can gain. Again, I have yet to run across any serious negatives for students that looking at this process. I don't see how we're going to lose much of anything relating to this deal, and I've mentioned all the positives that we have yet to gain with under 21 entertainment, new facilities, new buildings, just lots and lots of enhanced services for students. So, all in all, the student response that's showed up at the open forums, that's appeared throughout the whole process, the feedback that GSB's been getting from students has not been negative for the vast majority. Most negative comments were kind of misconceived and misperceptions. We'd follow up with the people with those comments, especially with the ones with misperceptions about what's going on. The most common misperception I hear is they're going to take out all the bars, and we're not going to have any bars for 3 years while they're taking everything out, so I hate Lane 4. That's not at all true. And once you talk with people, realize that yes, your favorite bars will still be there. There's the off chance that a few may have to, you mentioned eminent domain, a few may be redistributed but for new facilities, but all in all, Lane 4 is pledged to focus on small business, the small bars. They recognize the importance of bars to student life as much as anyone, so they want to do what they can to make it successful.
Okay, well, let's switch gears for a minute then.
Yep.
And talk about you. What benefits are there to being the GSB president?
What benefits?
Yeah.
For me, it's been a fantastic leadership experience. I've learned quite a lot in the process. I gain pleasure out of leading students. I've really, really grown and developed personally as an individual throughout this process. So I, can't say enough. I enjoy serving, and this has been the best way for me to fulfill that goal.
Now, I've heard one of the perks is that the tuition is augmented.
Yep. I actually turned down the full tuition that comes with this job because I'm on another scholarship. So you could say I'm actually the cheapest labor GSB has around here. So I am still receiving the living stipend that comes with the portion of the scholarship, but all in all, I make, if I were to be fully honest, much less than minimum wage and such for the hours I put in. I'm about 40 hours a week and don't make all that much in the grand scheme of things. You can look that up online, but financials are by no means the driving force behind this.
Okay.